Yep. Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, this is Mary, and we'll be back with some more RPG horror stories for today. Mary, how are you feeling today?
Meow.
Meow?
Meow.
Mary is now a cat.
Meow.
Let's
Meow.
meow meow into some meow meow stories for me meow.
Yeah.
Meow. Meow.
Meow. Meow.
Let's meow our
Meow.
way to the stories right now.
Yeah.
I cast a rope trick. I feel like it's gonna be a bondage story. I don't know why. I feel like it's gonna be a heavy bondage story where somebody's like, I cast a rope trick to put you in bondage. Haha.
Mary needs to learn that.
Whoa. Whoa. A few years back, an old 5e group I was in couldn't run in our usual space. Instead, we head out to the local FLGS, hoping to run there instead. Got ourselves a table, bought some dice, grabbed some snacks, the usual. The Eberron book had just dropped, and I was putting the finishing touches on my Artificer character sheet while we waited for the DM to arrive. I chat with the table about how excited I am to a new class finally dropping for the game, and someone clearly overheard me. A random player from another table detaches and oozes on over to us. Think we'll assume he must have been friends with one of us at the table from how familiar he acted, but when we check later, none of us have even met him. He talks about how he's got a sick Artificer build too, and offered to engage in a quick PvP between us to test out our builds. I'm a little hesitant, but the rest of my table wanted to see my character in action, so I relented and said sure. After all, it should be fun. I had an artillerist who's rolled some goofy stats, and he apparently had a battlesmith, so I figured it'd let me see two different versions of the new class in action for once. We started a brand new server. This is completely unrelated to the story. We started a brand new server to teach our friends D&D, and guess what everybody's picking? Artificer, 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 Artificer. We had to literally beg people to start looking at other classes and try to sell them on other cool classes because all we had was just Artificers the whole time. D&D is more than just Artificer, but like, I get if you're brand new to D&D, you think, oh, cool tech stuff. Yeah, let's roll with that. It's like, no, wait, hold on. Have you heard about the Drake Warden Ranger, or the Moon Druid, or maybe Fiend Warlock? Have you heard of those? Oh, it's a scary time trying to get new people to try new classes instead of just go directly for Artificer. Anyway, completely unrelated. Let's keep going. First round of combat, I win the initiative and pull off a bog standard fire my attack round. His turn comes and he casts a rope trick. We all stare at him a little confused, and he smugly explains how he is going to hop on his mount, climb up the rope, pop out each turn, and launch every spell he has at me, then short rest in the safety of his hideout. Might as well quit now because it's basically unbeatable. I don't think, can you short rest mid-duel? Is that allowed? I mean, obviously you shouldn't be PvPing in D&D in general because the game is not built about PvP at all, but are you eating, by the way?
I'm eating a cookie.
I think he's joking for a second. Then he keeps grinning at me, and I explain, the rope in his inventory is 50 feet long, so even with the mount, he'd only be able to climb like 30 feet up in his turn. Artillerists have access to really easy knockback effects, so on my immediate next turn, I just shoot him off the rope and deal 30 foot of full damage. Even if he got inside the rope trick, he's pinned himself to one location, so I can just dash away and be out of range of most of the spells and attack pretty quickly, since Artillerist is a much more range-focused class than Battlesmith. Even if he pulled off his plan successfully, I could also short rest in the time it took him to do that, so it accomplished absolutely nothing. Even if I didn't short rest, I'd just leave, both out and in character, because this was meant to be a fun duel, not whatever this was. We all kind of stare at him, baffled at what the hell he's trying to achieve with this, and he sulkily collects his dice and returns to his table without much of an explanation, abandoning the duel when his strategy didn't pan out. We go back to our game, and I forget this until 5 minutes ago when I saw rope trick brought up in another conversation.
Oh, I remember.
I mean, yeah, if you have such a weird interaction with somebody that tries to abuse a spell like rope trick in some way, they think they big brain, 4D chess kind of maneuver that. But so yeah, it definitely wasn't a bondage story that I was thinking it was gonna be. It was actually a lot more. This is just a silly story about somebody trying to use a rope trick in like in a gotcha. Haha, I gotcha. I'm gonna win the combat anyway. You're fighting enemies. You're fighting the environment. It's PvE.
I think just some guy just wanted to show off and then it went weird.
Let's get to the next story for today. Jon Snow, but less of a cook. I'm sticking with that. I'm sticking with that. So I'll play D&D 5e at the game shop with my usual group and I'll forever DM. Our DM was a good guy, but a bit of a softie, which is kind of the problem. We're starting up a new campaign, so we got an influx of new players. Our party by that end was 8 people. I rolled up a Tabaxi monk. As somebody who has experienced 8 people in a single session, that's a lot of players. I personally don't recommend people, unless you have like a really good group of friends that is very organized, gotta listen to each other, gotta be very polite, and gotta be very courteous and respect each other's time. I don't recommend running 8 people. At most 6. Preferably anywhere between 4 to 5. I think that's the normal average that most people recommend. One of our newish players was a massive Game of Thrones fan. He wore the Targaryen shirt to literally every game. I hope he watched it. And he rolled up a character that was described as Jon Snow, Belishable Cook. He was very vocal about his hatred of Season 8. Jon was a ranger and half Dragonborn homebrew. He also went really hard on a backstory and demanded that we all read it. And one of his key catchphrases was, "I do not want it, the throne." Basically, he wanted to be the opposite of Season 8 Jon. Reading a backstory is like cool and all, but why not just have you roleplay as your character and talk about the backstory and introduce your character's backstory as you... Are you zonked out? Are you okay? Mary zonked out. Anyway, if you have a backstory of your own that you're running and you really want other characters to like learn about it, tell your story as your character. Tell it in character. Don't just force people to read it. Like, I mean, yeah, you can have people read, and there's nothing wrong with reading other people's backstory, but I find it so much more better when you let the player decide how their character talks about their story and how in that personal moment where they open up and reveal more about themselves. And they can choose how much they reveal per session, or how much they trust one another and stuff. Instead of being timid and humble, he was cruel and power hungry and fully embraced his Targaryen heritage by killing all who stood in his way. Especially Daenerys. The player hates Daenerys, but including most of his own family, except Arya, who was his lover. He was adopted? No, he was a... Wait, no, wait, wait. Aren't they related? They're related, right? Arya Stark?
They are related, they just have a different mom.
Jon Snow was a bastard son. They're still related, though. I don't like that. He made sure to include plenty of details on that. And to top it off, he even basically rewrote a crap load of lore for the Forgotten Realm, our setting, to fit his Westeroski backstory. Despite all of this, he listed his alignment as lawful good. I don't believe it. I genuinely don't believe it. If your whole character is, instead of being lawful good, to just like basically bulldozing through the Targaryen name by killing people off, I don't think that's lawful good. That's not good, definitely. But it's also not lawful, because like, I think murder is good, or lawful. DM was also a bit taken aback by how much of his lore directly stepped on the toes of the actual game. Like at some point, he literally tried to make the BBG have Targaryen roots, so he gently reminded him and said, "You know this does take place in the Forgotten Realms, right? A lot of the lore you reference is very specific to A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. I don't mind, but I almost certainly won't be able to incorporate all of this." He responded by saying, "I'll make it fit. Don't worry about it." DM approved it because, well, he is very accommodating, and admittedly he is a Game of Thrones fan himself, as were most of us, and wanted to see where this went. Before you start ham-fisting some parts into the general lore for the GM, you know, that your DM brought up and stuff, why don't you just check with the DM if that's okay to do? That's probably what I would do. If I wanted to introduce something from Morrow's backstory that I wasn't sure if it was going to be okay or not to include for whatever reason, I'll probably be like, "Yo, Mary, I want to include that for Morrow. Can we have that included in our world? Or is that a little too much? Should I rewrite it?" And then that's how the conversation will continue from there. But you gotta check with your DM. You can't just be like, "Yo, DM, catch lore," and just expect them to kind of like, you know, make sense of it, the whole thing. It's like a Rubik's Cube. Basically, you're not passing DM a Rubik's Cube. You ask the DM, "Hey, can we add this to the side? Or is this something different I can add that can be related to my character's backstory?" You communicate with your DM to write story together. You don't just be like, "Yo, DM, catch, figure it out."
Yeah, don't just make some weird-ass giant rabbit that has rabbits all over the place and ends up becoming a real thing.
Okay, but that's fine. That's okay. As a DM, you have the ability to do so if you want to. But imagine if a player just decided, "Hey, DM, this island now has Pokemon everywhere." No, I didn't approve it. No. "But DM, guess what? Lore stuff. Here, make Pokemon work." No, I'm not gonna make Pokemon work. It's our world. It's not for you to decide.
Is that a jab at me? Because I want Pokemon. No,
it's not a jab at you the slightest.
I know I have such smooth skin. Anyway.
The issues started really coming in when the campaign got going. Again, it was a set in the Forgotten Realms, but Jon Snow had other plans. From the get-go, his whole goal was recruiting an army to sail with him to Westeros. Because apparently Westeros and Faerun are on the same planet according to him, and he viewed us as his recruits as well, and he was the main character of the campaign. The BBG ravaging Chesenta, I hope I pronounced it right, didn't matter. No, only the Iron Throne. Right, so the guy goes full main character syndrome. Hooray! He would refuse missions that he couldn't try to twist and make serve his ultimate goal, that again was all about Westeros and a bunch of Game of Thrones lore that had nothing to do with the campaign. And he would constantly go on and on about his fanfic backstory and how much he missed Arya and all the graphic sexual things he wanted to do with her again. Okay, incest, any sort of fetish stuff out of games. Doesn't matter if it's part of your story or lore or whatever have you. Don't do that sort of thing. Second of all, don't expect your DM to just bend over backwards and write the whole story for your fanfic. If you want to write a fanfic, go on Wattpad and write a fucking fanfic. Or go write a goddamn book somewhere. Don't have your fanfic be played out as a D&D character, because guess what? It's not going to work. Because not only are you making your character literally copy-paste of Jon Snow, just Jon Snow but different, quirky. He's not like other Jon Snows out there. But you're also forcing the DM to start including things like Westeros and other factions and changing the entire plot. That is not only rude and disrespectful, but also a crappy thing to do to your DM. Don't do that to your DM or players and force everybody to change the entirety of the plot just to bend around your character, because apparently though the main character and everybody else is recruits for his army. We generally went along with it, but one day when an NPC sent us to go on a rescue quest for a queen to save her daughter, I don't know why you guys went along with it. I genuinely don't know why somebody just didn't tell the guy no. I feel like if somebody should have said no early on, the guy probably would have cut the whole thing out. And just maybe just tell him, hey, how about you don't make Jon Snow? How about you make a different character that is not Jon Snow? Inspirations from other character in media, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with looking at Grog from Vox Machina and being like, oh, I want to make Grog, or looking at Kratos from God of War and be like, oh, I want to make Kratos. But you gotta have a little bit of extra to it. You gotta have something that's more personalized, not just copy paste the entire story of Jon Snow and that's just what Jon Snow does. Maybe have a character that is similar to Jon Snow, inspired by Jon Snow, but wants to go for some sort of a throne of a kingdom that isn't Westeros, that isn't something that is directly pulled from Game of Thrones, that could be within the DM's world. It's not that difficult. Just be like, DM, I want my character to go fight for a throne of a kingdom. Please help me make that work if that's okay. And that's it. And then the DM, if they're willing to work with you and like your idea, could probably give you a story where you're trying to fight for some sort of a kingdom and a throne that doesn't have to be Westeros, doesn't have to have Targaryens, or any of the other Song of Ice and Fire Game of Thrones stuff. Easy. But no, gotta really ham-fist that fan fiction in there, don't we? Really gotta ram it in there, don't we?
I was gonna say, because I based one of mine, Yelena, from like a book. So like you can take characters from things like movies, series, books and stuff. Just make it not exactly them, just put your own twist on it, because that's what I did. Because now I have like Alan, who's a cool assassin who's really into poisons, and that's like, I love it. I love playing as it, but it's like, it's my take on the character that I really like from my favorite book.
This queen had already turned him down on his Westeros conquest goal, so he said, she's not my queen, and I will not serve her. She needs to mind her tongue around her king unless it's used to service my cock. Jesus Christ.
Oh my god.
I finally said, we're doing this side quest. You're outvoted, bro. So he said, frig this, and ran off, leaving us to do the mission while he had dipped for like 2 sessions. God, hope he doesn't ever return back. Oh wait, there's more to this story. He returns back. Fuck. When he came back, he claimed he found a magic item that would grant him control of whites that he could defeat in battle, so he could turn one of his greatest enemies into his asset. He really just pulled this out of his ass. DM said, no, that's too OP for a player to just homebrew off screen. This guy's homebrewing his own magical items out of session without checking with the DM. What is he on about? He just really wants... Dude, just go on Wattpad and write a fan fiction. Or DeviantArt or whatever people go to write fan fiction on. Write a freaking book. You don't want to play in a game. You don't want to interact with other players. You don't want to interact with the DM. You think the only thing that matters is whatever your character wants to do and whatever you want to do. You can literally find yourself as the main character, main priority. Don't participate in TTRPGs. Don't force other people to deal with your nonsense fetish stuff. Because not only are you making them deal with the main character nonsense stuff, we just regurgitating fan fiction Jon Snow, but you're also forcing a weird incest fetish thing. Don't do that. None of that. Write a book. Actually, don't write a book about the fan fiction stuff. Just go to jail at that point. Skip 20 bucks, skip start, just go to jail in Monopoly. He got really butthurt up to that, and he became increasingly frustrated with the pace of the game. He would increasingly become more and more of a murder hobo, killing random people who disrespected the king of Westeros, or if they had something he wanted that he didn't want to pay or quest for. He would complain to the DM about the pace of the game and why it was taking too long to find badass magic items or recruit of his army. And he had even less tolerance now for any other party members of their stories. I remember one time he legit told another party member, Elf Cleric, after she was telling the party about her tribe and how it was destroyed by the VPG's Demon Knights. She admittedly did go on for a long time about it, and Jon's player was getting bored, so Jon said, "Oh my god, nobody cares about how many elf peasants got skull-fricked by some demon knight. We have more pressing matters to attend to." And she scoffed and said, "Like your incest fanfic backstory that has literally nothing to do with the campaign?" Damn! Now that's what you say. That's exactly what you say. I appreciate this player. I appreciate this player because they're telling the guy how it is. The guy doesn't care for anybody else's involvement in the campaign or in the story. He doesn't care to involve or care for or to participate with other players. He doesn't care for other players. He thinks himself as the most important character, the most important person in the room. He then got really pissed off and said, "I stab her in the freaking throat." DM then said, "All right, that's enough. Jon, you can't do that." And he said, "Why not?" And DM said, "Because you're clearly pissed off in metagaming. This campaign is not all about you, so chill out." He then left again for another 2 sessions and came back and tried to sneak another OP homebrew magic item into his inventory, to which DM promptly removed it and warned him, "Do that again and you're out for good." DM, this was your time to just completely kick him out. He doesn't care to participate. He doesn't care to interact with anybody. DM, honestly, has been way too soft in this situation. Your DM, it needs to just be toughened up a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Less leeway. Just a little bit less leeway. This was the perfect time to just be like, nope, you know what? This happened already twice. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. You're out. I'm just not dealing with this nonsense. Because this is ridiculous. The guy doesn't even communicate with the DM about this sort of thing. Just like, another homebrew item, DM, I just have it here. No, dude, you don't just get to make up your homebrew items. What, are you stupid or something? This guy's an idiot. This guy, not the DM, but the player, he's clearly a freaking idiot. He's a main character Casanova. That's what he is. You know what he is? He is less of Jon Snow and more Joffrey. Except less ruthless and more crybaby. Way more crybaby. What didn't come to that, because eventually he did end up coming to a point where his shenanigans got him killed. Met this NPC in a shack in Adder Swamp. This NPC was a collector who found a magic light sword that could deal subtle damage to hordes of creatures at the same time. He didn't know how to use it, but was keeping it for his collection. Jon asked how much it was, and the NPC refused to sell it. He said, "Nothing you have is of enough value to me. The only thing I care about more than my collection is my wife, and she disappeared 40 years ago." Jon then grabbed him and said, "Listen, peasant, your wife probably ran off to gargle on some other dude's balls. Now give me the goddamn sword or else I shove my sword straight up your fat ass." We begged him to stop and that he couldn't support him in this because we thought the guy was dangerous. He was, and it went against our morals, but he kept going and rolled an intimidation check. And crit failed. The NPC then just looked at him and gave him a death stare, as we now could see that he was a death hag as we stared deeper into his fiendish eyes and watched his body transform, and the DM told us to roll initiative. We were level 4. The death hag attacked Jon with his scythe and landed a devastating blow. When it got to our turn, we immediately fled and took nearly deadly amount of opportunity attacks. Jon then tried and failed to flee as well and got down. The hag then took him and threw him out of the swamp, and the DM gave him a chance to roll death saves. he failed them. You know what? In this situation, claps for the DM, but also fuck around, find out. And he found out. You had a perfect setup for a quest to find the wife that he haven't seen in 40 years. The DM even threw you a bone. When the DM gives you these sort of things, that's literally a setup for a quest. They want to give you the magic item. They want you to have it, but they want you to go on a quest first, idiot. And he just like, no, listen, I just want the sword. Your wife ran away from you and she gargled some guy's balls and stuff. What an idiot, seriously. Jon's player then got extremely angry again and got into a major argument with the DM. He said, that was BS and you know it. You just wanted me dead because you didn't know what to do with my character and his story. He also said, Jon has been resurrected before, so he's coming back next session. You don't get to decide that. God. You know what it's like? It's like when like 4-year-olds are playing like outside and they're playing like pretend characters and they go like, my character's not dead because he's immune to this damage, but he shoots it with giant lasers. And the other guy's like, but he can't, he's not gonna kill him with lasers. My guy's immune to lasers. He's gonna shoot you with plasma. But guys, he just literally, he sounds like a 5-year-old. He sounds like a 5-year-old that's playing pretend and he just on a sore losing streak and he's just coming up with random nonsense just to try to get his character not to die for whatever reason. That's what he sounds like. DM denied this demand. As they went back and forth, they got more and more heated. At one point, Jon's players started yelling at us, the party, for not having his back and tried to argue that we could have beaten him if we, the party, didn't pussy out. DM told him to lay off at us and he was now getting pretty mad himself, understandably. The argument with the player in a state of temper tantrum and stormed out the store. This was 4 weeks ago. And since then, he has been in our group Discord begging us to play again and being apologetic on one hand, but on the other claiming he's gonna burn this world to the ground. We're trying to guilt trip the DM for not incorporating his backstory into the world enough, to which oddly enough DM conceded on. I get the sense the DM is gonna let him come back as he has gone from no to you need to take a break to if I did let you back, things are gonna have to change. I feel like he's going to show up and DM is just gonna let him back in. So yep, that's where we're at right now. Do not, I repeat, do not let your DM let this guy back. I'm gonna give you the most honest advice for you, OP, and for everybody else in your group. Everybody get together with the DM and plead the DM. Actually, you know what? Not even plead. Let the DM know you guys do not want this guy back in your group. You do not want to play with him. He is a nuisance, he is a disturbance, and y'all don't want to have anything to do with him. It might be good to also let your DM know that if this guy is going to be back in the campaign, that y'all are not going to play as long as he is in there. I think that's the best way to put in perspective to your DM that you guys just don't want this guy in the thing. Because he adds nothing to the DM or to y'all's experience whatsoever. He is selfish, he is self-centered, he just wants to talk about his own story and his own things. He's trying to force the world to bend around his fan fiction. That's not okay. And you guys need to be honest to the DM and let the DM know that you're not gonna take it. And with that, that's all the stories for today. Thank you guys so much for watching the stories. We hope you enjoyed. We hope you had a blast.
If you like this content, make sure to like and subscribe. This has been Tales Tomorrow with Mary, who's very dead right now.
Whoa.
Leave a message after the beep.
She's not dead, she's tired. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Bye.
Bye.